Moneer, thank you so very much for obliging SkillSphere Education and me and for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Anansh. It was a very detailed presentation of me. Thank you so much for having me for this discussion. I also have enjoyed over the time our friendship, the time we met in Hyderabad, then in Mumbai, and from then onwards we were connected on and off using internet for a lot of works. Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Moneer. Thank you so very much for joining us. So let's quickly get into the conversation. Today's topics are related to India, Afghanistan and COVID-19. So let's talk about the unfortunate thing that has affected everybody. Moneer, what's the situation with COVID-19 in Afghanistan?
In one word, it's worse. It's getting very difficult here to control the public and to control to have a control over the spread of this. Initially, Afghanistan started with a very slow pass, and then it went on and then increased. Now it's in like thousands of people. So because we don't have much of travel from abroad, so there are assumptions and there are statistics that suggest that the virus didn't came to Afghanistan like other countries, but there are a lot of tourism is there, a lot of people who travel between this country and that country, but rather it came in a different way, in a more what can I say, in a more different way. So in the starting of by mid-February and also end of February, Iran basically started to deport thousands of Afghan workers who work in Iran as a refugee. So basically they are immigrant workers who go to Iran for work because the work condition is not good in Afghanistan, so they go to Iran. They actually cross the border illegally, a lot of them. So Iran started to deport thousands of them on daily basis. And of course, because Iran was the most hit in Asia at that time after China. So a lot of these migrant workers who came to Afghanistan, who were deported to Afghanistan, they had the virus with them. So initially, the epicenter of the virus in Afghanistan was the province adjacent to Iran or close to Iran, which is Herat, because most of the immigrant workers, those who were being deported, they were settled in Herat for a few days. They were roaming around, going to restaurants, or staying in local hotels, like buying stuff or going around. So they initially spread the virus widely. So the epicenter was Herat, but then after like mid-March, then we started seeing affected people in Kabul as well. And once again, I'm saying this didn't came via air from other countries. Rather, it came from Herat. Majority of these people who came from Iran. So if they want to go to any other province, especially to north or northeast or northwest or even to central provinces, they have to come to Kabul for some days, and then they can actually go to their provinces. So a lot of these migrant workers came to Kabul city, and then they unintentionally a lot of them were affected by virus, and they spread the virus here as well. Also, in mid-March, by end of March, a lot of Afghans and like thousands of the Afghans were deported from Pakistan as well. So they were crossing Torkham border openly, like without any checking, without any proper surveillance if the person has a COVID-19 virus or not. So they came to the city of Jalalabad, and then they started to affect people, different other people. Right now, the official statistics says there are around 23,000 people, people who are affected by coronavirus, but that's just an assumption. But one can say that a lot of people are being affected these days. We see a lot of death news. A lot of people are dying. A lot of people are, mostly elderly people are dying. This is not something normal. This is not something normal. Not on daily basis, we see a lot of announcements from our close friends that are announcing that their elders have died or some in one way or the other. But one can say that most of them are affected by the COVID-19. So
Right.
this is at the moment this situation in the country, and it's quite bad. The government doesn't have full control over the people. They lack testing kits. They lack testing centers. Thousands of people who are affected by coronavirus, they can't.
Right. Right. I think we just lost Moneer for a second.
Go to testing centers, because here you have to go to the testing center. You have to give your sample, but even if people are not affected, if they go to those testing centers because of the poor condition of hygiene, they may get affected.
Right.
So people afraid of that, they don't go there. So this is the overall situation. I can go in detail as well.
No, absolutely. No, thank you so much. That gives us a lot of a basic idea. So interestingly, a lot of people think that COVID-19 has only been a traveler's virus. In this case, it's hit Afghanistan very differently. In the case of India, yes, it came via multiple channels. It definitely came in from the Middle East initially. It also did come in from travel from Europe. It came in definitely via travel from China, but yes, there's a lot more international travel to and from. In the case of Afghanistan, as Moneer is mentioning, it's a very interesting situation. It's taken place due to cross-border immigration, and a lot of illegal immigrants who were actually sent back to Afghanistan from Iran, which was one of the most affected countries, is one of the primary reasons due to which coronavirus started spreading, and now it seems to be in a position where it's difficult to control. So in fact, I would like to ask you, Moneer, when we talk about Afghanistan, who are the people who you feel are the most affected? When we're talking about society in India, one of the biggest issues is the entire situation that the migrant workers in India have gone through. So being a person who stayed in India for at least 4 years of your life, I'm sure you know how a lot of people, laborers, actually come to work in the bigger cities, Hyderabad, Chennai, Mumbai, Delhi. So a lot of these migrant workers come to work in these bigger cities. And what happened is that when the lockdown was instituted in India, they were actually stuck without work for a long period. And then slowly and steadily, they started getting sent back to their respective states. It was a big ordeal. They really struggled. And once they have been sent back, unfortunately, they have carried coronavirus to some extents with them. And while initially coronavirus was largely concentrated in the bigger cities like a Mumbai or a Delhi, which are still the most affected, coronavirus spread like wildfire across India once migrants were sent back. But they have really been affected. And honestly speaking, everybody has been affected in some way or the other, but the migrant workers the most. So Moneer, what is the situation in Afghanistan? Who are the people who have been affected the most?
You can say that the people who work on daily wages, like the construction workers, like those who, because in Afghanistan we have a lot of people who sells fruit or dry fruit or any other thing, any other item on the street. So they have like small shelves like putting beside the street, and they're selling something. So when the lockdown happened, all of them had no way to do business, and when people were not going to buy from them, so they were all at home. So so basically anyone who was working on daily basis, who was earning on daily basis, they lost their job, they lost their income. So they were hit both financially, and because those are the people that cannot afford better hygiene, because once the news of coronavirus was viral in Afghanistan, suddenly everything went, the prices went up. Like example, if you were if you were buying one package of wheat, which is around like 20 kgs or 30 kgs in 1,300 F before, but then when the news of the virus get viral, and then people were selling them for 2,000, 2,500, and all those. Everything, the ration that they would need for their daily basis, those things the prices went up. Example, in early March, I bought a bottle of sanitizer, which was around for 60 F. That's like around not even $1, around 80 cents. But then by the end of the March, that the same bottle was up to like 200 and 250 F. That's almost 4 times expensive than before.
Wow.
Yeah, and as well as this very surgical mask doctors are using. Initially, you could buy like 2 of it for 5 AF or 5 Afghanis, but then the prices went to 50 Afghanis or 60 Afghanis one.
Wow.
So I mean, the people who could not purchase these basic items to keep their hygiene well, or to maintain and to decrease the spread of virus, they were hit hard. Now if you visit the hospitals, or if you see the news, the people who are most affected are those who actually cannot afford this kind of hygiene, or people who cannot afford staying at home. The government or the lockdown says that you have to stay at home, but a lot of people do not have anything to eat or anything to use while they're at home. So they have to go outside. They have to find money in one way or the other. So they were hit the most.
All right,
so there's no, and also there were cases how it actually went to some of the remote provinces, which are quite far from Kabul, and people don't travel to those places much. For example, one person who has been affected by coronavirus, he has died in Kabul.
Okay.
So because there are lack of testing, and the hospital or the government doesn't know that this person who has died is affected by coronavirus. So the relatives of those people, here we have a custom, if you're from a village, so majority of the people would bury their deads in that village itself, rather than burying them in the place they live. So most of the people try to carry their loved ones who died and their elders who died. They wanted to bury them, give them the burial ceremonial in their villages. This way, in so many cases, it actually this made it easy for the virus to get spread. Also, a lot of ceremonies were not stopped here by end of March. Like, we still had weddings, we still had death ceremonies, we still had Friday prayers. Even in the epicenter of coronavirus, which is Herat, they had large gatherings of Friday prayers. Though the government was trying to tell them that even if you are having your prayers, please keep the social distance of at least 1 meter. But they were not listening. Now, like, a lot of people got the virus like that.
That's very unfortunate, Moneer. That's in fact something similar to a lot of things in general that take place in India. Slowly it kind of spread out. I can see a lot of common points. The poorest people, the people who focus on daily wages, to earn their income, are the ones who are most affected in Afghanistan as well. That's quite unfortunate. And at the end of the day, we can only hope things get better soon. It's a very difficult virus. Honestly, nobody knows how to deal with it beyond a point, and everybody's learning on the go. So let's hope for the best for Afghanistan as well. Let's actually move the discussion to another. Let's move the discussion to another interesting area. Let's talk about education. Moneer, both you and I are involved in education in society in some way in our respective countries, right? With me running SkillSphere Education, you running Pamir International Model UN and the Youth Thinkers Society, there's a lot that you do for the upliftment of the youth. I would like to know, how is education being affected in Afghanistan thanks to coronavirus and these lockdowns? What's the status with schools, colleges? How is it working?
I think it's been hit by the most the education system, because even without virus, the education system in Afghanistan is not that good. That we should actually rely on that a lot. Universities are still teaching the old methods, are teaching the old curriculum of the Soviet era or post-Soviet era. There are still a lot of problems with the education, but when the coronavirus came, so all the school and university was shut down immediately. And then the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Higher Education, they were proposing different ways as how they can actually do this. So they proposed online classes. They proposed to have it on TVs. They proposed to have it on giving the students materials on a pen drive or a flash disk so that they can use it on their laptop. But a country where everything is dependent on foreign aid, where the army cannot even go on itself on the government cost for a month or a year, and everything is almost dependent on foreign aid. So how can you expect the people or the common people to have a laptop at their home or a tablet at their home or a smartphone at their home so they can access the online classes? So that strategy totally failed. Nobody actually have access, like majority of the people, like I can say 95% or 90% of the students do not have access to a good internet connection, or don't have a laptop actually. So there are only people whose economy is a bit better. They can own a laptop, or they can own a tablet, or they can actually own a smartphone through which they can access their study materials and all those. Those are mostly in the big cities like Kabul, Herat, Mazar Sharif, and some other cities, not in the rural areas. So that is like something which the government have to think to come up with a better strategy. And then the schools, they started to run the school sessions on national TV, but then again a lot of the households doesn't have a TV. If they have a TV at that particular time, they don't have electricity.
Right.
So everything is connected to each other. If the government is planning to have the studies on TV, first of all, everybody should have a TV. Right. Then if they have a TV, they should have electricity.
Right.
And Afghanistan is a country that has never been energy. Energy was never sufficient for basic use. So there were times that in Kabul we didn't have electricity for like hours. So you can think about how this will be in the villages and also in the districts of other provinces. So that strategy also kind of failed because nobody was following that.
Right.
And then they were saying that we're going to give you like materials in a pen drive. Okay, first of all, I have to go and buy a pen drive. Okay, if I bought that pen drive, then I need to have a laptop to use the pen drive, and that was also a failure. So some of the key universities, some of the major high schools who are for elite people. So there are international schools in Kabul and Mazar Sharif and Herat, who are for people who can afford those schools. they are good. They have online act, because even before the coronavirus, they had online classes, they had online materials. So they are working properly, and some of the universities as well, like the American University of Afghanistan
Right,
and
right.
some other universities, which are well equipped, and the students who go there also are quite good economically. So I mean, those are running well, but the government institutions, the government schools, the government universities, they are all no news from them. So I
So
mean, it's the education sector has been hit very, very hard.
So, in fact, just to give you a certain bit of an idea of what's happening in India, yes, we have more stable electricity. In fact, India got 100% electrified as per government reports a couple of years back, a few years back. So, we do have electricity. We do have great data connections as well with a lot of different operators and 4G and all of these things also spreading through. But yes, definitely, what I'd like to tell all my students, and in fact a lot of teachers would probably have a look at this talk, is that Afghanistan is facing a very, very serious issue due to a lack of electrification, a lack of devices, a lack of a lot of basic things. For example, when we're talking about showing things on national TV, a lack of electricity. And Moneer, I'd like to tell you, definitely we in the metropolitan cities are doing much better, in the bigger cities are doing much better. But once again, when we talk about the districts and villages, not at a similar level as you are talking, but definitely education has been very heavily affected. In fact, one of my biggest concerns is the divide that will get created between the rich and the poor. It anyways exists, as you know, in all of our Asian economies. It is probably going to become bigger thanks to this, because we have a lot of good private schools across India, and people are very fortunate to be having a Zoom on a laptop. Some kids have their own laptops, have their own cell phones. But there are a lot of people belonging to the lower classes economically, nothing else, lower classes economically, the poor people who aren't able to access education. So within these last 4 or 5 months, you can safely say that probably one section of India has continued its education and has probably even enhanced its education, because they have been introduced to a new field in online learning. But the other area is trying to learn via WhatsApp, via recorded videos, and it's difficult. It's really difficult. For all the children here who are going to be listening to this, I would really like to tell you that for all of you who complain that you don't have your own device and your father is working on your device, so you're not able to access a class, please remember that we have brothers and sisters in Afghanistan who are trying to make sure that they have electricity and a TV. Yeah. And the government is trying to do
Exactly.
that. Yes, Moneer, go
So,
ahead.
like example, okay, say most of the people have a laptop or a smartphone to access uh, internet, to access their studies, but then comes the cost of the internet.
Right.
Like example, right now for the office, I'm paying around $100 for 1 MB internet. So
$100
guess
for 1 MB.
for 1 MB, yeah, that's
Wow.
that's the dedicated, satellite internet. And if you go to cell phone, and people are buying around for 1 GB internet, they're paying around 200 or 250 F, which is around $4 or $3.5.
Wow.
So just guess in India, I think it's like it's very cheap, maybe
Right.
1/50th of this
It's
cost.
probably you can count around $1 or so if you put in a rough estimation. But yeah, it's much cheaper when you also consider the standards of living. I mean, $4 in
Exactly.
Afghanistan is way more expensive than $4 in India, isn't it?
Exactly.
Worth a lot
Like
more.
example, if I say I'm gonna pay to internet in India monthly around $2 or $3,
Mhm.
so I'll get a good speed, I'll get a 4G speed.
Right.
But here they say it's 4G, but even it's not 2G. The speed is quite worse. Yes, that day we were seeing this. A lot of students were getting disconnected and then connected, disconnected and connected again. So
Right.
we face those issues.
Right.
We sometimes we can't even video chat on Zoom or WebEx or any other platform.
Right.
Example, if I have to talk to my family in some other place, I cannot do a video chat with them. So I have to do voice. Sometimes I was
Right.
doing voice chat with you as well,
Right.
with this good internet that I have at the office. But still, this is not enough. So one thing is that it's expensive to have a smartphone, and then it's again expensive to maintain that smartphone, to use it as a smartphone, not just the camera or as something that plays video. So to have internet in it will cost you a lot. So a lot of people cannot afford that. So if they cannot afford that, then they are, they're they're not connected to their education. They are remain behind. A
Right.
lot of them, like a lot of the students.
So, in fact, Moneer, I would also like to, bring this to another thing. I'd like to move the discussion, steer it into another area, talking about education. Moneer is one of the very meritorious students of Afghanistan. A lot of people in India probably do not know, but the Indian government has a system of scholarship for students from Afghanistan. Every year, if I'm not mistaken, there are students in a few thousands who are given a scholarship from Afghanistan. Moneer, you had
1,000, yeah.
12,000 students,
1,000.
1,000
No,
students.
1,000.
1,000 students are given a scholarship. Moneer was one of those meritorious students who actually got into CBIT University, one of the very good universities in Hyderabad. He completed his graduation as an engineer from there. That's where I met him as well. Moneer, could you tell them exactly, that it has been a struggle and Moneer has worked very hard. Even in his profile, we talked about all those tumultuous times growing up, partly in Pakistan, partly in Afghanistan. He is a diehard, patriot. He loves his country. I've seen that in so many ways. There was this one line that I heard once. There was a person who once asked Moneer, why do you want to go back to Afghanistan? I remember this very randomly. That's one of the most lasting impressions I have of Moneer when we were in an MUN. Said, why do you want to go to Afghanistan? What is there in Afghanistan? And Moneer said, my country is my country. Right, so he is a very, very, very strong patriot, and that's what actually attracted me to him even more. And I'd like you to tell everybody, Moneer, give them a basic idea of how you got to India. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of trial and tribulation. Some of the things I don't know either, even though we have had a conversation. If you could just shed a little bit of light, because I really want students to appreciate the level to which today Moneer is one of the premier thinkers in Afghanistan. He's gotten to this point, but it's been a lot of work. So, Moneer, please share a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Ansh. Your words are quite overwhelming. It's too much, basically. So yeah, India, the government of India have a scholarship program for Afghan students. Annually, they used to give around 500 scholarships when I applied, but then they increased that number to 1,000 now. So I think they're giving around 700 students for bachelor's degree, and around 200 or 250 students for master's degree, and some 50 or 50 plus for PhDs. So they have different procedure for each of these categories. When I applied in 2011, so it was a totally open competition. So I think from 2005 till 2011, or maybe before 2005, it was an open competition. So if you're a graduate of 12th grade, submit an application for that. You can just register your name with the Ministry of Higher Education, and then they have an exam. The exam is basically English and mathematics. So if you have scored a higher number, there is no like lower number or the minimum. So they actually count it from who has the highest number, and then they'll counting down till they have completed the 500 person, and then you're selected for the scholarship. Some year the highest number is around 310. Some year it was 285. Some year it was 320. So it depends out of 360. So it depends on what were the the level of students who applied that year. And then in 2011, when I registered for this scholarship, at that time I got accepted in one of the national universities. It's a polytechnic university, so I was selected in the engineering field. Then I applied for this scholarship, so I got this scholarship. Not only me, a lot of my friends who were with whom I was in the same school or in the same town of Quetta. So yeah, during the Taliban era, so a lot of the Afghans, like millions of Afghans left Afghanistan. They went to either India, they went to Pakistan, they went to Central Asia, they went to Russia, they went to Iran, and so many other countries. The majority of people who went outside of the country was in Pakistan and then Iran. So I was in Pakistan for about like 10 to 12 years. So I did my schooling in Pakistan in an Afghan school, in a refugee school. Those schools were funded by Japan, by the government of Japan. It was for refugees. So when I came back from Pakistan, I applied for the state exam. That's like an entry exam for different national universities. So then from there, I got it in one of the top universities in Kabul, which is an engineering institute. Then the scholarship came. I applied for a scholarship. Then I got a scholarship to India and to Hyderabad. That's how I came to India, and I studied engineering in Hyderabad for 4 years. Through that time, I've traveled to almost, if I remember, around 30 cities of India, or maybe 25 cities of India, almost south, east, west, north, every part of India. So yeah, I've traveled a lot in India. So I have a lot of good memories from India, from almost all parts of India. And then, but now the system for scholarship has changed. So it's not an open exam for the bachelor's degree. For example, if you want to go for a bachelor's degree to India, you have to take the national test or the entry exam to national universities. If you have a higher score in that, and then they will offer you a scholarship as well beside your seat in the university.
Oh, okay.
Then you can choose what. Do you want to stay in the university or you want to go for a scholarship?
Oh, okay.
And then you can choose that. And then there is the master's degree. Master's degree is basically for the government employees. It's not open, so you can't apply for the master's degree. It's only for the government employees. Those who are a government employee, a civil servant, they can actually apply for the master's degree. And the PhD is open for everyone. Anyone who has a master's degree from anywhere, they can apply for the PhD. If they're selected, they will be given a scholarship.
All right.
This is how the trend is at the moment. So India is offering around 1,000 scholarships per year to Afghans.
That's a very interesting.
Which is very huge. So if you just count from say 2003 onwards up till now, it's been like around 15, 17 years. So they have educated around 20,000 at least people on the scholarship, and then like thousands of people who have been on self-finance, because it's quite cheap to study in India compared to even Afghanistan.
Wow, that's interesting. That's a very neat thing to hear. I'm very happy. In general, apart from Moneer, I also met a lot of other Afghan students in India, and a lot of them, I believe, have gone back to Afghanistan and are working in different fields, just like Moneer, who is a very inspirational leader, as I said. In fact, let's talk a little bit about your work, Moneer. With the Youth Thinkers Society, what I'd like to tell you is that Model United Nations conferences, even when you were in India, Moneer, in the 2010, 2011, 2012, very popular. We had 5 to 10 Model United Nations conferences taking place even back then in Mumbai or in Hyderabad. Today, honestly, you can't even count the numbers. Probably it runs into hundreds and thousands in every state in India. And every school, which is a good school, is actually involved in Model UN conferences in some way. And these conferences are a great opportunity, if utilized correctly, for students to develop public speaking skills and other soft skills like leadership, diplomacy, learn about the world. So it's great, and it's grown. It's continuing to grow. It grew a lot during our phase in the 2010s, 2011s. But Moneer actually introduced the first Model United Nations conference in Afghanistan. And recently, I had the good fortune of conducting a workshop, a virtual MUN workshop for about 100 students, roughly about 50, 60 joined us online. And a lot of others actually viewed the session offline on Moneer's MUN, Pamir International Model UN Facebook page. And he's doing a lot to actually, apart from MUNs, he's doing a lot. And, I'd like you to tell everybody, Moneer, how much that MUN matters for Afghanistan and for the youth. I mean, how important it is.
Yeah, as mentioned by you, MUNs were not quite popular in Afghanistan by 2016. So I actually started, understanding and learning MUNs in Hyderabad, and then Mumbai, and then Chennai, and a lot of other cities I've traveled to attend MUN conferences. And then I learned a lot from my Indian friends and Indian co-team members, that when we were organizing CBIT MUN. So I learned a lot from those people, those friends that I learned a lot from you and Mumbai MUN and other MUNs. So when I came back to Kabul, so actually MUN have changed a lot about me professionally. It has changed a lot about me professionally, also personally. And when there has been a lot of changes in the way I communicate with people, the way I talk with people. I was not like this when I attended conferences. It actually made me a traveler, you can say.
Right.
I used to travel for Indian conference, but then slowly it actually changed me, to being a traveler and traveling around. So when I came back to Afghanistan, so there was this hype about Model UN among the students who have attended colleges in India or in Central Asia or in Bangladesh or any other country. But within Afghanistan, we had a proper Model UN. I think there were some people have tried to organize Model UN, but due to some reasons they were not able to. Even you and I once tried, but it didn't work well.
Right.
And then the American University of Afghanistan had an MU club where you used to meet on different times. When I met their student affairs team, they said that they have an MU club within the university, but it's not quite active because nobody is actually familiar with. There were people who were familiar with MU, but they were, graduate. So then I started to, bring a team together so that we can organize a Model UN in 2016. It was quite a successful Model UN, a very successful Model UN. We started from scratch, and through Youth Thinker Society, we started from scratch. We built up a team, and the team was, some were familiar with Model UN, some were not familiar. So we had to teach the team first what is Model UN, and then we started to teach different schools and university students as what is Model UN. So we had like several workshops, different workshops, and then we even had a mock. I mean, Model UN itself is a mock, so we actually had a mock conference, a one-day mock conference, as how this is done, apart from the workshop. But then when we got closer to the date of the conference, something happened. It was quite, amazing. We met the first lady of Afghanistan, who herself is a very intelligent and very kind woman. She is a Lebanese woman who, but she's now an Afghan who speaks local languages very well. So when we told her about our initiative or the Model UN that we want to organize in Afghanistan, she received it very well. So she gave us the permission to organize the conference under her auspices, and then she accepted the invitation to attend the opening ceremony of the conference, which was,
Wow.
quite big achievement for our team,
Right.
The team was quite happy that we are having the first lady at the conference, and then at the day of the conference, most of us were first time organizers, except few of us who had experience of organizing or attending in different countries. Most of us were first-time organizers, so we had our drawbacks and like, mistakes. And then at the day of the conference, as the first lady came for the conference, and then another surprising thing was this, that the president also came for the conference.
Wow.
For the opening ceremony. Yeah, that was a total surprise for even for me. I was aware of it until the morning. So in the morning, before the conference had to start, their security team came and briefed me that the president is also coming to the conference for a few minutes, then he will go back. So it was quite a time that we cherished that achievement, that thing that okay, now this is something is happening. So that created a big media media exposure all around the country, or like even abroad. And then the president invited all 330 participants plus around 30-40 organizers to the presidential palace for a dinner and also for a talk. So that was quite amazing. Yeah, it was quite a good experience. And after that, what we saw was amazing. A lot of the students who participated in our model UN, they started their own model UNs in different cities, in different universities, such as Kabul University and different other universities in different provinces. So they started, to organize model UN conference on their own. Some of them we supported, some of them actually did it independently. So that was quite a good thing that came out of that conference. And I still know people who met at that conference, and they are now like co-workers or a good team or like very good friends.
I'm glad to
that
hear
was
that.
A good thing.
I'm absolutely.
Yeah, and then after that, we tried to because that was a platform that we try to engage youth on different agenda topics. We brought them together. We asked them to sit around one table and to discuss and to debate, and they were actually quite getting to know each other well. Different cultures from different provinces, because in Afghanistan we have to accept that we have issues between different ethnicities, between different religious minorities. So that was a platform that actually connected most of these people. There during the conference, nobody was caring if you're from this ethnicity or from that ethnicity or from that ethnicity. So everybody was like under one umbrella, and they were discussing, they were being friends, they were dancing together, they were singing together. So that's the big thing that I take from that conference. And then we thought we should take it more forward, and then to give youth more platforms so that they can actually express themselves, express about the problems. So we started a symposium on the sustainable development goals, which is still new even within the government. If you go, the ministry that is actually working on the SDGs, some of them are not aware of the SDGs, or they call it still MDGs. So we used to bring around 300 Afghan youth from all the provinces of the country except few. We brought them together and they discussed the SDGs, how they are facing the challenges in the local areas, in the districts, in the local villages, how people are aware of the SDG, how they can actually help in achieving the SDGs. So this was in collaboration with the UNDP and Ministry of Economy, who is leading the SDGs. So these are some of the platforms that actually we are providing for the youth, so that they can express themselves, they can actually talk about their issues, they can actually come and learn something new, maybe meet someone new or be a friend with someone new. So these are the things that we have been doing since 2016. Now on a different program, we're trying to extend the model UN further to the provinces, where we are traveling to different provinces. So we have targeted around 12 provinces, which includes around 30 or 40 universities where we travel, we train the students how they can actually organize a model UN, how can actually they form a model UN club within their university, and how can they can actually take it further from there. So those are the things that are we're working at the moment to institutionalize model UN, and so that like India or like any other country, MUN are a, a part of the students' activity in the university.
Congratulations on that, Moneer. I honestly didn't know the level to which you went, and I'm very proud of you for everything that you're already doing. I would like to tell everybody that, Model UN is very different. The level of importance it has for some of us in India is very different from the level of importance it has for those in Afghanistan. When we are talking about all of those places which are actually getting to get bound together, it's becoming a uniting factor for students. It's helping them develop confidence, helping them learn about the world. So all of these things are very, very great, and I'm very happy that this is the way it is percolating through the Afghan society. And I hope that we are able to do something similar here in India as well. I hope that all of you students approach it the same way that Moneer's team is trying to help institutionalize MUNs. Today, often we see a lot of students enjoy going to model UNs, but don't really learn as much. It's important to make sure that you keep the focus on learning, like they are trying to do in Afghanistan. That's very, very important. So in fact, Moneer, I'm very happy to have been able to organize that virtual MUN workshop for you as well. And I do look forward to taking this collaboration forward. It's always something that makes me feel very happy. I'm glad that this MUN worked out this time, and I believe this year you're going to be going online with it, and always SkillSphere Education is going to do whatever we can. I'll do whatever we can to help you in every which way possible, Moneer. And in fact, Moneer and I have been talking. In fact, Moneer and I have been talking about an Indo-Afghan Youth Summit. We'll be planning that, and hopefully we're able to plan something really good. And we'll come back to you with it, because honestly speaking, it's something very important for all of the students in India as well as students in Afghanistan. Recently, about a couple of days back, I got an opportunity to interact with over a lot of people from, a lot of students from Afghanistan, and they were very kind enough to appreciate the workshop. And a lot of them are in touch with me now, and I can see how bubbling they are with energy. And I'd like to congratulate you, Moneer, for the impact that you're having on the youth in Afghanistan. It's very important that countries like India and Afghanistan, we are going to be young countries. It's important that we are able to take things forward.
Thank you so much, Anansh. Thank you so much. I really look forward to the Afghan Indo Summit.
Right.
Either we can do it virtually if things go
Absolutely,
better.
virtually.
Maybe in a later time we can actually do it where everybody is present and they can actually meet face to face, talk face to face.
Right.
I actually enjoyed my time being in India. I always call India as my second home, both India and Pakistan, because I've lived in these two countries. They're almost the same, but with some differences. Yeah, with some positive and negative differences in both the places. I mean, India is quite different place than
all these
exactly because I've had a different experience in Pakistan than I had a different experience in India, which I I've enjoyed both. I've learned a lot from India. I've learned more than that from Pakistan because I was there since my childhood. So these two countries have given me a lot that I'm using at the moment, to serve my country.
In fact, if I can just add to what you're saying, Moneer, when I went to Cornell University to complete my master's, what I realized, yes, we have a lot of political differences, India and Pakistan, and I don't want to get into it because honestly, there is no end to that discussion. But the point is, at university in the
people
US,
are the same,
yeah, there is absolutely no difference between an Indian, a Pakistani, an Afghan, a Bangladeshi, and to an extent even Sri Lankans. We are all South Asians and we have our own group. And honestly speaking, we can easily converse with each other. We understand by looking at each other's eyes. So yeah, we're very similar. There's no doubt about it. Yes. Moneer? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. So we are all the same.
Yeah, true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. Great.
So I'd like to thank you so much, Moneer, for all the time that you have taken out. I want to just sum up a few key takeaways that I would like to, share. This is not the last you're going to be seeing of Moneer on a SkillSphere education page. I promise you that. We are definitely going to make the Afghan Indo Summit work. I assure you about that. Moneer is more motivated than I always am. There are a few key takeaways from this session. We started off by discussing the situation with COVID-19, which seems to be in some ways at different levels mirrored between India and Afghanistan. We talked about the entire situation of education, and I'd just like to tell everybody that every time you complain about not having the most advanced smartphone and go and talk to your parents about it, I would only request you to think about a lot of students in different parts of the world like Afghanistan who are struggling to get their hands on a phone or a TV, or for that matter electricity, to get education done. All right, we need to be very grateful for what we have and also need to see how we can help others. That's the second point. The third point is with respect to motivation. Moneer is a motivated individual who has done very well and is continuing to do brilliant work. He has been recognized by the premier people of his country as well. And he has used Model United Nations as a mode to try and develop and build unity among people, get them to be more aware, and get the youth to become stakeholders in society to a larger extent. And he's continuing to do that. You must approach MUNs the way Moneer is trying to percolate it through Afghanistan. Don't look at it simply for that social that you want to attend post discussions. Focus on the discussions and make sure that you make the most of them. And lastly, and most importantly, India and Afghanistan, we share common cultures in many ways. We share a common history, of course, and in many ways, it's important for both of us to grow together. So thank you so very
Thank
much
you,
for
Anansh.
joining the session. And I know the session extended a little beyond the time I told you it would, but I've just enjoyed speaking to you. So thank you so much for that.